You may know Julianne Hough from her championship turns on Dancing with the Stars and films such as Rock of Ages and Grease Live. But off-screen, Julianne dances to a beat all her own. Her new venture, Kinergy, is a dance and fitness platform that empowers authentic self-expression. She's also the co-owner of a new brand of wine called Fresh Vine Wine, a collection of premium, low-carb, low-calorie wine. In our conversation, we discuss her record-breaking career, setting boundaries around fame, and how she learned to dance for herself, not to win. At We Care Spa, we believe that if we can make sense of our lives and reconnect to the earliest, sometimes forgotten parts of ourselves, we can become whole again. Today, I'm thrilled to share the fast with Emmy Award winner Julianne Hough. Julianne, welcome to the fast.
Well, thank you so much. By the way, your voice is so smooth. I just need everybody to introduce me that way.
I'll record it.
So good.
I have a voice and a face for radio. I don't know.
No, for camera and for life. I mean, you are heaven on earth, and I love just hanging out with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you agreed to do this today.
Of course.
You've been such a supporter of We Care Spa over the years, and to have this moment with you, I'm so grateful.
No, I honestly, like, my gift is that I get to come here. So the fact that I get to share this with so many people watching and just share my experiences and just how, I don't know, this has impacted my life in such a profound way. And we are speaking the same language. I'm excited to be able to offer and contribute what I can back. So.
You know, and I love that because I think one of the really unique things about We Care Spa is that people come here and their lives are changed. If they go on the journey and invest in the journey, I think they really, and I hear it from the guests. They come here and their lives are changed. And I can see it from the arrival, that first day or two when they're really like in that beginning stage to that last day. It's like a new person.
Honestly, I feel like I am a We Care ambassador because every time I come, I'm like, I can pick out the people who are new and I'm like, hey, where are you trying to go? What can I help you with? Here, let me help you with this drink. It's like, I get so much joy. So I'm just saying, like, if you guys need another person to work here, I'm down.
We'll take you. We'll take it.
But also, it's so true though. Like, if you come to We Care not knowing what you're looking for, or you think it's just the physical benefit, you realize that like the mental aspect and the energetic and the spiritual come without you even realizing because you think you're coming for the physical, one thing, and then you just are blown open to so many different other aspects of that mind-body connection. So
and I think that's probably part of the hard part for people who are coming for the first time. It's like, oh, I want to drop some weight.
Yeah.
I'm going to go here. I'm going to fast. I'm going to cleanse. And then you get here and we're like, no. Let's talk about your emotions.
Yeah.
Let's have a fire ceremony.
Yeah.
Let's burn the things of the past and open a path for the new.
Well, but you do it in such a way that creates such a safe container for people that might be uncomfortable, or this might be like so new for them that this is not their language to begin with. And so they come here, but you guys create such a safe environment and like so held and warm and inviting and still fun and playful. So it's not so serious too, that everybody just drops in immediately. They feel so supported. And honestly, between Mari and Rhonda and your healers that you have here, as well as just everybody on staff, like, you really, like, We Care is pretty special, and I've traveled a lot, and I go to a lot of places. I love retreats, and I just keep coming back. Well,
and we're like this little, we're looking out the window here, and there are the San Jacinto Mountains, which are the tallest mountains in California. They're covered in snow.
I know. Isn't it gorgeous?
But we're like this little hidden gem here in the desert, and I think that's part of the the appeal of it is that you can really get
Cocoon.
away.
Cocoon. Come in and just just cocoon.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to get my questions
let's
together.
get questions.
But let me tell you, so
Come
last
on.
night, I knew I was talking to you.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so how am I gonna open this interview with Julianne? So I was like, oh yeah, I need to get my hand jive.
Oh my gosh, Grease Live, yeah.
But I watched Grease Live last night.
Oh, you did?
I watched it.
Aww.
And my first thought was, oh my gosh, that is the hardest thing to do, to play a role like Sandy that is so
iconic.
Iconic and so associated with Olivia Newton-John. May she rest in peace.
Yes.
But I was like, you have some real cojones to do
Thank
that.
you.
And then you killed it, by the way.
Thank
you were
you.
so good.
Thank
Which
you.
is not surprising because I know your background. But I was like, what was that like for you to step into a role that is so, it's like Hamlet for men.
Yeah,
It's like
no, of
there's so
course.
much expectation when you step into a part like that.
You know what? There is expectation, I think, when you think about the outside world coming at you. But my greatest go-to always is trade expectation for appreciation. Oof. And so the fact that I am just able and honored to be able to play this part, which was such a staple in my upbringing, and was really one of the first women that I saw on, the big screen that could be two different versions of herself, and that she wasn't just one thing.
No.
She was multiple facets of who she is, and that is who we all are as people, right?
Yeah.
There are so many parts of us that exist. We're not just comprised of one being, especially the sweet innocent. Yeah. That part still exists in me, but I also have that fiery Sandy too.
The black spandex
exactly.
and the teased hair.
And so it was, obviously so iconic to be able to step into Olivia Newton-John's shoes. And by the way, she is one of the kindest, I'm going to rest in peace, but was one of the most kindest, most generous souls. And so I always felt welcomed to be able to do it, where it wasn't like a barrier of nobody can do this role but me,
It's mine, I own it.
Exactly. No, she's just the most, giving, open person. And so I felt very, very welcomed to do
I love
it.
that.
And also it was, sorry to cut you off,
go
but
ahead, please.
it was also just it was like summer camp. I mean, we had 1 month to do this whole show and this whole production and rehearsal, and then we had one night. It was opening night and closing night, and it was live on television.
Oh my gosh.
There were storms happening. We had to redo the whole opening number that morning, and then the storms passed, and we were able to do it as planned. But you can see at the very end when we're all out in the middle of the carnival scene. I think we break character, all of us. We're just screaming and laughing and just this is so amazing. It was combining Broadway with television and film. It was the combination of all three of these things that you'd never seen before on television.
Never.
So
because when I was watching
pretty
it,
cool.
my eyes are watering. When I was watching it, I was like, they're really doing this live. And when you guys got on the trams and went through, I was
Oh no, speaking of hand jive, so after that big number when Danny Zuko starts dancing with Cha-Cha and Sandy's pissed off and she's like, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go sing on my porch. Literally, I was running from one soundstage to the other soundstage on the back lot of Warner Brothers, and we're booking it, and I'm like, how am I gonna sing Hopelessly Devoted? I'm out of breath. I had 30 seconds, and now I'm on.
And now I'm in my sorrow.
But that is what is so spectacular about live. Oh, that extra 15% reserve tank that you don't know exists just comes in, and you're like, and I could do this all day. It's so good.
I have to tell you, so Grease was the first movie I ever saw.
Was it really?
It was the first
my
movie I
gosh.
ever saw. I remember my mom didn't want me to see it.
Yeah.
'Cause I was-
By the way, I had to sneak it from my parents when they were not at the house.
Yeah, I want to say I was 6 or 7.
Yeah.
It was 78.
Yeah.
So I was 7. And I went to the movie theater. This is how long ago this was. I had only on a pair of jeans, no shoes, no shirt. And I remember sitting in the movie theater and watching Grease, and my mom was so mad. Her younger sisters took me.
Yeah.
She was so mad when we drove back up. And of course, I'm trying to sing the music. I don't know the music. Of course, yeah. But I loved Grease because I think, and you mentioned this earlier. And I don't want to make this but the Sandy character gets a bad rap in that movie because she
Flip-flops.
puts on the black spandex and the hair. But Danny changes too.
Oh, he changes too.
He totally changes.
And by the way, are they really changing, or are they in high school figuring out who they are, tapping into different versions of themselves?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And also, it's a movie.
And it's a movie, and they were all 35, by the way.
All 35, by the way.
but I love that you said that, because it does kind of show that a little bit in the film, and we've all expanded and grown so much as a generation.
Oh my gosh.
But I will say that, like, my favorite part is that, again, all parts exist in us, and like we are not the sum of one thing.
No, we're not. Now, I know your background is dance, and we were introduced to you through Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you about dance, because I would say one of the really interesting things that came out of COVID was that people started dancing.
Oh my goodness.
People who could dance, and the best were the ones who couldn't dance. That's what I love. But why do you think that the response to that was dance?
I just got chills. Well, I believe that dance is the universal language. It is how we connect with people. It is how we celebrate. It is how we grieve. It is how we, our body is designed to move. Our body is not meant to be still or stagnant or, stuck.
Yeah.
I mean, we are beings, and our body is designed to move, to express itself. And I think in COVID, I'm so glad that people were moving, because if you think about everything that was going on with the what is it called? A disease? What
Whatever
was
that
it?
was.
What do you call it?
We don't know what that was.
A virus.
A
There we go.
virus,
Not a
pandemic,
disease.
all of it.
A virus. The last thing you want to do is let it overtake you.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm like, I'm not letting this have the power. So the only way that I can do that is by moving my body and like staying positive, being in a high vibrational state, even though all this stuff is like super negative going on around you.
Yeah.
And so to see so many people, especially, I think it was Italy that first started it, when they were like singing and dancing across their balconies, and just to see the actual connection of, dance, music, celebration, it was like what brought the world together.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you see, bad things happen, people come together even more. And I think dance and the body and movement, it amplifies everything.
I mean, it was beautiful, and it has lasted past. I think it's just part of our vocabulary now. I went to Yale Drama School and studied with a man who has since retired. His name is Wesley Fada, and he was a Martha Graham dancer. One of her
proteges.
You don't call them primos anymore.
Yeah,
One of her main dancers. And he would always tell us in dance class, he would say, people dance when there's no language to express what they're feeling. And he would always tell us, let the bear out when you dance. And I remember one day I was dancing across the floor. We were doing these things. We had a drummer in the class. And we were doing these sort of like warm up, passes across the floor, and I fell. And he's like, I love it when dancers fall because they're giving it 100%. They're giving it everything. It's the best when a dancer falls.
Yeah.
I love the dance. I love that you come from dance. I think it's really a beautiful gift when people can express emotion and evoke emotion in people through movement, through their bodies.
And by the way, it's not always like that. Like, I was a professional dancer my whole life, and I was very obsessed with being perfect.
Yes.
And like making sure that I did it right and I looked good, and it was all about perfection. And it wasn't until later in life that I was like, oh my gosh, first of all, dance has been my therapy without me realizing it. That's one. But two, how do I actually dance for me and not to win?
Right.
Because I was a competitive dancer. So I had to like learn how to get weird and get like ugly in my body, because it's not about perfection, it's about expression. And like when you can express yourself and emote, and it's not about dancing like, you have to get it right or wrong. There is no right or wrong, good or bad. It's just, think about it. Like when you're a baby, maybe you can't remember back then, but think of a baby.
Yes.
They have something like 10,000 unique movements.
Yeah.
And as an adult, we have like 1,000.
Wow.
When you see a baby in a high chair, when music comes on,
They just move.
they just dance, right? And they love it. And then like somewhere in their journey, either someone told them that they couldn't dance, or they started feeling like they were being judged, or that they weren't a dancer. But at the end of the day, we're all dancers. We all feel what it feels like. You don't have to be on rhythm. You don't have to have the right step. You are designed to move, right? And like, we just gotta like remember who we were when we were kids before somebody told us that we weren't dancers.
What was that like for you? Because you were 10 when you went to London.
Yes,
you
I
left
was.
home to dance.
I did.
What was that like for you?
Well, first I actually went to, I don't actually bring this up very often, but I actually went and lived with a Russian family when I was 9 for 3 months.
Oh, wow, okay.
I kind of blocked that out. I'm now doing a lot of inner child work, so I remembered. But when I was 10 years old, I moved to London and lived with my dance coaches there. And it was training morning, noon, and night. I mean, I still know my schedule to date because it was so rigorous and structured that it created so much discipline and work ethic as a kid, but also so much rigidity that I've like learned how to like again find like an immature, playful, silly side. I was so mature as a kid, and now I'm like finding. I'm mature now. I have wisdom now. I wouldn't say I'm mature. I'm literally sitting cross-legged on the chair, but I definitely have wisdom now, and flowing in between the discipline as well and the structure, as well as the freedom and the uncertainty and where the magic lies. I think that's been like my greatest realization and awareness.
How, I know we're talking about health and the joy of healthy living. How did you maintain your health through dancing? Because it's probably one of the most demanding art form, sports.
Yes.
You think about it that way.
I know, I always say artistic athletes.
Yeah, because I mean, and there's so much pressure to look a certain way, be a certain way. And I mean, Balanchine had the ribs he wanted to see. And, for a long time, they wouldn't let black women be ballerinas because the bodies are so different and so muscular. So, and I know it's even harder on the women than it is on the men. How did you maintain your health, or how did you learn to maintain your health through dancing?
Well, I would say I didn't until probably I was aware of some mental associations probably around like 29, 30, but I really didn't start thinking about, wow, this has really affected my mindset of what's healthy and what's toxic until probably, I don't know, 3 years ago.
Wow.
I used to say, oh, I was lucky. I was a dancer. I could eat whatever I wanted. But it wasn't about what I ate. It was like later on, as I grew into a woman, trying to stay looking like a 15-year-old little girl.
Right.
And so that was the hardest part, was that it was all image based. And so I went on so many different fad diets. I mean, I think, at one point I was put on diet pills, like a 700 calorie meal, and I was working out 2.5 hours a day, every day while I was on set of Footloose. And it completely jacked up my system, because I then, like, when I got off of the diet pills and when I started eating normally, like, I blew up, and then I was like, wait, but everybody knows me to be the like fit, healthy dancer.
Yeah.
Now I have to get back into that cycle and keep doing it. And so I kept doing this cycle over and over again. I'm like, that is so unhealthy for my body for the long term, and also for what, like, who I want to be in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to represent this unattainable thing. Like, I want to love my body for how it naturally and healthily, because I work out. I love to work out, but that's because I love it. It makes me feel good. But like, I want to be someone that has integrity and for myself and for what I'm showcasing in the world. And yeah, that's important to me now. So that's only really been over the last few years.
You said something interesting that you think about what you're putting out as a representation in the world. And I wonder, would you use the term role model for yourself?
I've never really thought of myself as a role model, but I understand that I probably am to some people, and without me choosing that.
Right.
And so I've tried really hard to let go of the perception of what do people think of me versus how do I want to be in the world. And so, as a 20-year-old, I was always like, well, what do they think? And like, I guess I need to be what they need me to be. And it's really shifted probably when I was like 28. I was like, no, I got to be true to who I am. And the more authentic, the more true I am to like myself and my being, it gives permission to the other person to see that they can be totally authentically them. And that's all I want to do. I don't want to say, hey, do this, do that. Just, I'm going to be me. And if you're inspired to be you, that's awesome.
How do we move the world to that view that you just espoused? Because right now we're in a moment of like, there's a lot of like party line thinking and speaking that goes on right now.
Well, it's just, it's tough because we have access and resources to so much information, and whether you're in a 5-mile radius to something or not, like you're gonna be fed whatever that is. And, have you seen Social Dilemma?
I have not.
Oh my goodness, you gotta see it. But basically it's about like social media and, marketing and what we're being fed constantly. And even if you have, if you're in like a 5, 10, 20-mile radius of a certain community that believes a certain thing, they're literally targeting the same people, what they want to see. It's not about opening our eyes to different perspectives and different ways of thinking and being open and curious. It's about knowing what you know, and that's it. And so that's hard,
right?
Because we're being manipulated without realizing. And I hate even using that word, but it's what's happening.
It's what's happening.
And I think it's it's a very, very. I don't ever want to put fear out into the world, so it's a very dangerous thing, especially like when you have people very influenced and myself included. I mean, I'm totally addicted to Instagram. I have to like stop myself many times. Yeah. So you know what? If I had like the answer, I would so give it to you. I think the thing is just constantly, self others world is sort of my philosophy. If you can connect to yourself, if you can do the work and go inward yourself and like really take the time to heal, to expand, to get uncomfortable, you can really make true discernment of like what you stand for and what you believe in. And then with that, you can connect to the people around you and relate to them in a different way because you're not in defense mode. Or you're not, you're just here to like actually have true empathy, not sympathy, you're here for true empathy. Like let me try my best to put myself in your position and like try to listen, understand you versus this is what I believe and it's because of this.
Right.
But I actually feel this. And this is where I stand, but you know what? Like, I want to relate to you, so let's figure out how to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so then the next layer is the world. And then when you can experience like how to connect to self and to relate to others, then I feel like you really can experience the world in its most true and pure form, which is love and acceptance and understanding and challenging. Like challenging people is a great thing. That's opportunity to grow. But when it's not challenging and it's just canceling, that's tough.
And I think I've made a ton of mistakes in my life, and I hope I make a lot more.
Yeah, me too.
I really do. But I think I think we talk a lot about empathy, which Dan Goleman, who's a writer about emotional IQ, really talks about empathy being the basis of your being an intelligent person. But I also think that within the framework of empathy also has to be forgiveness.
Yes.
you know? And I think we sort of lost the mechanism of forgiveness right now. We're like, if you make a mistake, you're canceled, you know? And so I think there's something within what you're saying that we must have empathy and we must have forgiveness for people.
For people and for ourselves. Yes, for ourselves. That's why I keep saying self, others, world. It's like, if you can't forgive or have empathy or compassion for yourself, how in the hell are you going to have it for someone else?
You can't.
You know? And so, you know, I mean, one of my dearest friends, she wrote this book called The Origins of You. And whatever kind of childhood you had, they're, you know, we love our parents, but they're also other children of, you know, other parents. And, you know, we're constantly going through things. And generationally speaking, you know, like we weren't as open about talking about wounds and, you know, trauma and all those things as we are today. So listening to her book, it's like, oh my gosh, there are like 5 universal wounds that we have. And even if you've had the most shiny, beautiful childhood, you still are impacted by those certain wounds. And if you can't look inside and forgive or have empathy or compassion for those parts of yourself, then how are you going to see that in others? But I'm not here to preach.
but you better keep preaching, Julianne.
I'm just talking to myself.
You better keep preaching. I want to talk about Dancing with the Stars a little bit. You must be so tired of talking about Dancing with the Stars.
You know, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm actually not.
Because you're going to be hosting this season.
I am.
And I wonder what Dancing with the Stars means to you.
It has been such a journey. I literally have grown up with the producers, the casting director, the Tom Bergeron, who was the host to begin with me, the judges, from when I was 18 years old. Wow. And I was always on the show for some reason for 2.5 years, 5 seasons.
And you won twice.
Twice, yeah.
Right,
so I started as a company dancer on the tour. Then I got on the show and spent 2.5 years as a pro dancer, won my seasons back to back. Left for 5 years, came back as a judge for 2.5 years, 5 seasons, left for 5 years, and now I'm back as a host. So it's definitely interesting how like we go in these cycles. And what's so amazing is like I always feel at home. I always feel like I have a family there. It's where I began, but every time I've come back in a different role, I've grown so much as a human that my association with the show has changed. I think when I was a dancer first, as a pro dancer, I was like, but I'm so much more than a dancer. I'm gonna go and sing and I'm gonna go and act. And I kind of—
Which you did.
I did. I absolutely did. But for some reason I had associated like success as like dancer wasn't the epitome. Musician and actor was, because dancers are always in the background. So it was this weird thing that I had in my head that I was like, no, I need to like not be associated with the show anymore. And I need to go and be an actor and be in Hollywood and do movies. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was very much my young self. But then coming back as a judge, I felt like, oh, I get to like contribute and help, and like I've been on the other side, so this is going to be really special to be able to really give feedback while also not having to do the work 7 days a week with my partner. I can do other things still. And this time coming back, I just feel like I'm 18 again. I feel like a kid. I feel like I'm discovering the show. I feel like the fans, the people that have been there from the beginning, and just like a gesture of like, thank you. Thank you for being on this journey with me this whole time to figure out where I came from, and the people who supported me this entire way, even when I was like, I need something else, like they have been there. Like this is my family. And so I am like beyond thrilled. I can't wait to just like give everything that I have. I want to do such a great job.
I know you will.
But like sometimes I think I got to a certain point, like in the middle of my career, where I was like exhausted. And I was like, how can I do the bare minimum and still do great things? And now I'm like, how can I give everything? Like, and that's where I'm at now. I'm so excited.
You said something very interesting, and I wonder what in your career, your life, has surprised you?
What has surprised me? Ooh, that is such a good question.
Well, you said as you were talking about your journey and your relationship with Dancing with the Stars, it made me think, and you left to do movies, and in 2022 you made your Broadway debut. It just made me think, what has surprised you on this path, this unbelievable journey that you've been on since you were a child?
You know, I'm just gonna go with what my gut is saying.
Yeah.
I think that anything is possible. Anything, I just got chills. Anything is possible. I mean, and not with hard work, not with determination, but just in general, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And I had two different versions of my success. The first one was coming from a negative charge to prove myself. And I had a lot of success during that time, don't get me wrong. But the lack of fulfillment that I had was, it was just an emptiness of what's next, because I need to continue to keep going. Otherwise, the emptiness, what am I gonna feel?
Right.
When I started in that transition of learning how to love what I did again for me and not to prove myself to everyone else, I lost all motivation, and I had to find it again. And what I realized was I was so afraid that I was gonna miss out on time because everything was happening so fast in front of me, and I was gonna miss out, and I have to do it now, otherwise I'm gonna miss my opportunity. And that still existed, but I allowed myself time to kind of just be.
Yeah.
And the things that I say no to now and the things that I say yes to now give me so much more space in my free time that I actually am a human being too.
Right.
And I've never felt more successful or have never been, this abundant financially, or I have never felt like I have true friends in the industry that have my back. Then I felt super alone and just hustled and grinded, whatever that word is,
Right, yeah.
forever, and felt so lonely. And this version, there's so much opportunity and there's so much love within it. And changing that mindset, I did not believe anything was possible. I had to create it. I had to force create it. And now I'm anything is possible, and I have no idea what it's gonna be. And I'm definitely gonna have a little bit of direction and focus. Right. Otherwise, I'll just be at We Care all day, every day.
We'll take it.
But I definitely try to really surrender and just what is my authenticity creating without me trying? Where is my aligned soul, and how is it supposed to show up in this world? And then somehow things start coming in, and then I get to choose.
Right.
Yeah.
How have you navigated celebrity? That's a big question. As I asked it, I was that's a really big question to ask somebody.
Well, as you can see, I literally have no filter. I will say way too much. I talk too much. And then after I'm did I say too much? So I think what I've learned is I used to share everything because I wanted everybody to understand where I was coming from. And if they could understand, then they would love me. And so I shared everything to the point where I showed my marriage, our relationship, my dogs, the things that were the most sacred to me, I gave freely. And I have really since then, in the last probably 3 years, I've reserved the things that are important to me. And I'm this is called boundaries. I'm just learning them in my 30s. And I'm happy to give, but you can't have everything. And that has provided me so much safety for myself and things that are important to me. And what I value is so different now than what it was before. And By the way, I love my fans. I have the best fans, and they like support me and everything. And some of them might really love me, but some of them might just adore me, you know? And I know the difference now. And like my friends, my family, they love me. And those are the people that I'm gonna share the deep things with. And I'll share, of course, like I'm sharing now, you know, but I don't need to bring everybody into my relationships or, you know, I haven't posted about like my dogs passing away because I realized I was like, that's not for them. And they're the most sacred things to me that like represented unconditional love. And like, I want to protect that.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to give any kind of narrative to someone else to create what that might be. I want to have that narrative. So, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry about your dogs.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been 3 years now, but I appreciate it. Thank you. They were my kids. If you knew me with my girls, oh my gosh, they were heaven.
What kind of dogs were they?
Cavalier King Charles Spaniels.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You talk about perfectionism. How, and I think a lot of people suffer from that.
Yeah.
Perfectionism and imposter syndrome seem to kind of like all kind of go hand in hand in some kind of weird way. How did you really, was that a conscious decision to say, I'm not going to live my life like that? Or did life bring you to that moment where you had to say, you know what, I have to let this go if I can grow, if I'm going to grow to the next level or achieve the next thing or whatever that was? How did you break that cycle, do you think?
Well, somebody said to me, perfectionism is the lowest standard that you can have for yourself because you'll never achieve it.
Right.
So like, that is why are you even setting yourself up to fail right now? Like that is so low for you. And when it was put to me that way, I was like, oh, I guess, yeah, there is no such thing as perfect. And like, it's just unattainable. Yeah. And so I think I've always kind of naturally, okay, I'll tell you this.
Okay.
When I was a dancer competing, I was not the technical one. I was not the most technical. I wasn't necessarily the most talented, but I was the most magnetic. I was the one that just gave it my all and like had fun in the moment to the point where sometimes my coaches would be like, what did you just do?
Like, I don't know.
I was like, I don't know, I was lost in the moment. It felt so good. And they're like, you didn't do anything that we did in practice. And I was like, yeah, I know, I'm so sorry. But that was like when I was really, really young. And I was just so free. But I will tell you, the judges, the audience, they couldn't take their eyes off me because I was free in my body, you know? And then I kind of like learned how to do both. Right. But I will say, until I kind of had this beautiful moment of like channeling, downloading my Kinergy modality that like came through me, I was still very much like, I need to get this right. It's all about being right or wrong. Or, you know, it's black or white. It's not one or the other. And I was like, there's more to that. There's more to that. It's not this or that. And so I started kind of working through this modality, and it's through movement, it's through breath, it's through visualization, it's through just more energy and expression. And all of a sudden I was like moving in weird ways and dancing and like making different kinds of sounds. And like, you know, it's not that weird, but it sounds weird me telling you right now. But it's definitely uncomfortable for people to just be like, what am I doing? Because they need structure to be able to follow along. So when I started realizing, oh, there's a good formula if you can create a little bit of structure and give people like something to move a little bit to that's not too challenging, but then the more you do it, it becomes their own, and all of a sudden their body takes over and they get to move how they want to move. Like, that's the dream. And so when I started it was kind of coming through me, I started embodying it even more. And now, I mean, you can't pay me to do like a proper cucaracha. Like, I'm like, I gotta get into it and do my own thing now.
You know who was like that was, and I'm really aging myself and showing how kind of a nerd I am, was Maria Callas.
Oh my gosh.
She would never sing the aria the same. And she said sometimes I made ugly sounds because that's what the song demanded.
That's what came out of me too.
That's what came out of me, and deal with it.
Right? Well, and that's when, again, the uncertainty, unknown, that's where magic happens, you know? And like when it's guttural, when it's real, you can't deny it. Yeah.
I used to love forgetting my lines.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, what's going to happen now?
I know.
I don't know.
Which, by the way, when I was just doing POTUS on Broadway, that was my biggest fear, was like, I'm going to forget my lines. And fortunately, I never like totally forgot, but I forgot to like speak. I forgot that it wasn't like I didn't have the words to come out of my mouth. It was just like, I forgot I had a line there. And then there was silence, and then immediately like
oh, it's me.
Yeah, and then immediately like, came back in. But it was kind of magic because it brought something totally different, and then like an urgency in my character, So
and the audiences love those moments because you're just, and it's not real. I mean, no one thinks it's real. No. So when you have those like human moments, and sometimes the inappropriate places, it's the best. How was being on Broadway for you?
Oh my gosh.
Every actor, dancer, singer's dream is to be on Broadway.
It is. It really is. And you know what? It's funny because a lot of people expected me to do a musical as my Broadway debut. Yep. And like I did too. And then this play came about and I was blown away. First of all, our writer was like 24 when she wrote this. It's a political farce. And I have, speaking of celebrity, how do I handle it now? I used to feel like I had to share everything about everything on Instagram and then like this and that. And I'm like, actually, I just want people to know where I stand through my art. And so this political farce was a comedy, ridiculous, so funny, but it showed where I stood, Like I had one of the most powerful lines, especially after this last year with Roe v. Wade.
Oh, yeah.
And, it was to the point where like we had a 5-minute standing ovation and people in tears crying because safe, affordable health care is a basic human right. And that was my line. And it was, I'm like gonna cry now.
No, I'm about to go with you. So if you go, I'm going.
And so, but that was one of the most fulfilling things where I could blend my truth and my art together without feeling like I had to get on my Instagram and
Right.
It was like what I stand and what I believe in because this is what I'm choosing to put out into the world. So that was also amazing.
Yeah.
And then there were 6 women in this show, and they were all Broadway veterans or women in their 50s and 60s who I haven't been surrounded by like women who have, or maybe I have been surrounded by them, but I haven't like actively reached out to be like, will you mentor me? Or like, how can I be surrounded by these incredible women and just soak up all this information? I've been so in charge of my own creation that I this opportunity for me was a little bit like, I just get to be a part of something instead of having to create it myself.
Yeah.
And hold the whole thing. And I just got to witness these 6 beautiful women just pour information and wisdom and love into me. And it was the most incredible experience.
In your career, where is the business and the art? And how do you walk that line?
So I did a show with Dolly Parton.
And I love her.
I know, and she was like, Julianne, you remind me of me. And I was like, do I? And she's like, do you think that I knew how to open up a theme park? No, but I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I knew it was possible. She's like, but I hired people who knew how to do it that were smarter than me. Which in turn made me smarter than them because I hired them. Right. And she's like, stay the visionary, stay the artist. And I was like, oh. And it was right around the time that I was starting 2 of my companies that I was founder and CEO of one, and then I was a co-owner of one. And all of a sudden, I was starting to do the day-to-day operations of things.
Sucked into it. Oh.
It just sucked the life out of me.
Yeah.
And everything that became like coming from a good, pure intention of creation, which is my strength, all of a sudden got diminished because I went into like operations. And so the business and the art, like that, I've really had to like build a team around me. I look at it as, actually Tony Robbins talks about this. He's like, they're in any kind of like business C-suite or whatever it might be, you need the artist, the entrepreneur, and the manager. And you probably have a little bit of all three within you, but like, who are you in that? Are you the entrepreneur? Are you the manager? Or are you the artist? I was like, for sure, the artist with entrepreneurial skill sets, zero management. And so when I'm building my team, I'm like, oh, I need somebody who's like number one entrepreneur, number one manager, and they are like my go-to people. Or if I don't have the, resources to have two and I just have one, like, let me go more management top priority and then entrepreneurial on the other side, because I have enough creativity and artistry. Clearly, I'm all over the place. Like, that is my gift and also my curse. So like, that has been a little bit of a structure that I've held pretty true to myself, is just balancing the people around me. I could not do anything that I do without the structure of the people and their beautiful work that they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier. Can you talk about Kinergy?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So Kinergy is a wellness company. It started as just a modality that kind of came through me, which I said before, but I like to think of it as, if you take movement, breath, and energy, or meditation, visualization, and movement, and you do any one of those things separately, you can get into that like centered flow state.
Right.
If you do all three of them at the same time, it's like a Tesla supercharger, and you get like locked in, ready to go, supercharged in the most expansive way and also the most grounded way. So you don't feel like you're just floating and like, I can't do anything now. Like, you feel extremely grounded while expanded. And I've worked really hard over the last 5-6 years now to really do the efficacy behind it, and like work with Yale and Harvard doctors, neuroscientists, trauma therapists, so that they can come in and really like make sure that what we're doing is held in a very safe environment, since none of us are trauma therapists.
Right.
And as well as, what is this actually doing to our brain and the new connectors being built? Dance and ping pong are the best things that you can do for your brain. Because it builds new connectors. Dance being the number one, because it's movement, it creates emotion. Music also has like everything to do with the like frontal cortex and like the sense memory, all of those things.
Yeah.
And then connection. And when you have connection with someone, that also creates emotion. When you can create emotion, you create new neural pathways.
Right.
And so like, with everything that we're doing with this movement, it's been designed to give you an arc of like the hero's journey, basically. And it takes you through this moment to go here, to come back out. And we really connect to the feminine energy, which I love yoga so much. It's very like, I probably shouldn't say masculine, feminine. We need to stop saying those things.
Those different words, yes.
So it actually, we focus more like yin yang energy. So when we're like connecting to that yin energy, it's very much like getting deep into the like more dark, shadowy kind of stuff that like we don't usually want to go to because it seems scary or seems dark. But when we get into it, it actually is able, that's where you can transform and come through and then see the light, and it's a whole situation.
Yes.
Now, I'm getting like way deep and woo-woo into it.
Well, listen, that's what
but
it is.
But there is science backed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this first season of this show, we're talking about people reclaiming the joy of their health or embracing the joy of their health. And I wonder what that moment was for you.
I don't think it's one moment. I think it happens many times. I think that, you have to continue to recommit to yourself.
Yes.
And I think that every time I choose to recommit to myself is when I have that moment of like, yes, I know this is what works for me. Yeah. And And then not to beat yourself up when you like shimmy a little to the right, you know, like, right. And then you shimmy back to the left, and you're back on track, you know. But I think when I came here the first time to We Care, I think I just did a 3-day, and I was like, my brain fog went away.
Yeah.
And I never got a colonic, so I was freaking out. But but I'm like, yo, it's the best thing now. I was like, nope, I'm not into this. But then now I'm like, let's go, baby. I can't wait. I'm gonna share all the things about what's happening here. I mean, it's amazing. I've actually got my brother to come and his fiance, and like every time I come here, he's like, "You going to the poop sanctuary?"
I am.
Yes, I am. Are you jealous? He's like, "Yep."
That's hilarious.
So it's not that, guys. But I will say that's a very high topic of conversation.
Well,
when we're going around, talk about getting cozy with somebody and comfortable. You feel safe. I mean, this is the place.
This is the place to do it.
Yeah. But I will say, like, you know, one of my dreams actually, I think it was the second time that I came here. I came for 2 weeks over the holidays. It was when I was going through a really low time. I was going through a divorce. My dogs had passed away. My internal world was like transforming, which meant my external world was also transforming.
Yes.
And the things that were no longer serving me and my highest good and the people around me started falling apart. But it was what I like to call the death hole pit of shit era. It was awful. Yeah. And so I remember I was like, you know what? I used to host the holidays always at my house. I was like, this is going to be so empty and depressing here. I was like, let me go take care of myself. And where can I go do that? And I had gone for 3 days, probably like 6 months prior. And so I was like, I'm going to go to We Care. Yeah. And I did. And that 2 weeks, that transformed my life. Yeah. Not only did the brain fog go away, but my mental clarity, my emotional release, because, you know, we think, again, the physical release with what happens here with a cleanse, with a fast, but it was the emotional release that I had been carrying for a couple of years that, like, you know, in my kidneys, in my liver, like the exhaustion of holding, trying to like stay attached to everything that was happening and really allowing myself to let go. Yeah. And our body holds so much information, so many toxins, so many emotions that like this was the place that I felt like I could do everything. Yeah. And I had the time to be able to like navigate and integrate all of it with obviously the most like beautiful healers and therapists, and they're just amazing. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, we said it earlier, people may come here thinking it's one thing, but when you're holding in one part of your life, you're holding in all parts of your life, because we're an integrated being. And so when you're releasing and cleansing your colon and your, you know, I've lost my language right now. Your intestines, all of it. But when you're cleansing that, it's, you know, you're really releasing stuff, and and you said, you know, you said it beautifully. Your body holds that energy, and what people are doing here is they're releasing that to allow something new to come in.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And that's what we do here. If you get to the heart of it, it's like, how do we let you release what you're holding, what may be habit, trauma, pain, etc. Yeah. So that you can allow the new to come in.
It's so true. And that's exactly what has happened, because I think that, like, you know, you kind of go through different acts of life, you know, and I feel like I'm in my second act right now. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm in my 14th, but like, but really, truly, I feel like the knowledge and experience and the go of it all that I've had my whole life, I'm so learning how to slow down and allow space. And when you can clear out, release, and create space, and not just fill it with more stuff that you're used to, you can really reset and recalibrate and really design your life exactly how you want it. And like having a foundation like that, I mean, that completely set me up for like the life that I wanted to create, not the life that I could create around all these other little things,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And, just reintegrating back into the world and like, what am I gonna eat and how am I prioritizing myself and making sure that I'm not so extreme where I come here and then I go back into like crazy life, you know? And it's like, I can do that and I can keep coming back, which I do, but also like, how can I find that balance of like, how can I bring We Care with me and continue in a more balanced way in life. So
I love it. I love it. Julianne, thank you so much
Heck
for
yeah.
today. We did it.
We did it.
Awesome.
Also, I'm hot. I don't know if my cheeks are flushed, but
You look
I'm
great.
so hot.
I'm like, don't sweat. Don't sweat.
You're amazing. Thank
thank
you for
you.
you're a great interviewer too. You
Thank you.
allow me to just spew.
I love it. I love it. I had like 1,000 other questions, but I was like, I'm just going to roll with this because it's really good.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right.
Thank you.